Uh, Ms. Mukundan, you are Managing Director of Tata Chemicals. And Tata Chemicals, I know, and everybody knows that a lot of work, is done by your company. I'll be particularly interested to request you to please share with us uh, with a specific focus on the goal 12 responsible consumption, but because that's very important thing, but not very many people talk about it. So please take us through as to what are the initiatives of Tata Chemicals on this particular issue.
Thank you, Mahendra Chouhan. I think it's wonderful to be with all of you. But first, I want to address the point which I think Professor Mervyn King mentioned about collaboration. I'm absolutely delighted what he mentioned because I serve on the CDP Trust Board of Trustees, and often we wondered, GRI, SASB, and where all this is going. I think the act of them coming together has been wonderful. I think CDP is very much aligned to that coming together and being the platform where we will provide the digital metadata for everybody to look at the performance and metrics. So I think we are all moving in the same direction. All the institutions which we set up, which is SASB, TCFD, GRI, CDP. So I think from CDP side, I can only tell you that we are very much aligned to coming together and collaborating, not working at cross purposes. It was delightful that you addressed that, Professor Mervyn King. Now, on to the responsible
I'll go to
consumption and production. Mahendra, I think when we talk about SDGs, this is one SDG which companies can directly impact. And let me highlight just four pillars of addressing it from the experience we've had in our organization. First one, what we need to do as far as addressing this is to influence consumer choices and consumer behaviors. Businesses have duty, in my view, to make available choices to consumer and also make them aware of the impact of the choices they make. And the very act of driving consumer behavior then forces competition to move in that direction. And very simple examples in India, the star rating of our air conditioners, people want to buy five-star air conditioners, switching to LED bulbs. In the business we run, for example, SRI, which is systematic rice intensification, which is used for less water consumption in cultivation of rice. These are all sustainable practices, but the fact is we have branded it, we've let the consumer make that choice, right choice. Second element of this is to influence the supply chain. Business has to go beyond the fence and ensure sustainability of supply chain. In the world and even within India, top 100 companies have disproportionate control of share of resources and commodities. And these firms can clearly influence sustainable production processes. Some of the practices we've seen is, for example, branding Rainforest Alliance. If you look at best labor practices with the vendor sites, making sure that sustainability KPI is integral part of vendor rating. I think these are all issues which one can do when we talk about influencing the supply chain. Third fact is what we are all trying to do through GRI, integrated reporting, through CDP. This is transparency about performance and commitment to improve. I think the key issue is not about where you stand in terms of your indicators, but about what is the roadmap to improve. And that goes back to the basic issue of do you have a sense of purpose in your business and what is your commitment to improve and how do you measure that improvement in any one of these frameworks which we talk about. And the last and final one is something which we should be working more actively, proactively, is the advocacy and working with regulators so that to ensure sustainability includes not just compliance, but goes beyond compliance in terms of adapting best available technologies. Here, specifically, I think one of the things industry in India has been able to do, the chemical industry, for example, entire chloralkali industry, India is the only country where we are completely mercury free. Whereas if you look at US, if you look at Japan, they're still using mercury membranes. We have mercury free. And this entire initiative was driven by the industry voluntarily with government support. And we converted to membrane cells in about a span of 10 years. But I think these are the sort of voluntary efforts which we need from the industry to take the role, which is beyond just driving profits. The Bureau of Energy Efficiency, which has done this whole energy saving drive, these are all examples of what we can do when we go beyond regulatory compliance to advocacy and adopting the best practices. So, in my view, I think companies have a role and they stand at a very important vantage point to include in their ecosystem and influence in their ecosystem the government regulation, the supplier and the supply chain, the consumers. And that's how you make the change. And I think it's very important to comprehend this increased focus on larger good of society is an enabler for the company's own sustainable growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukundan. That was great. Particularly it's very important that the supply chain, because large companies have a large number of SMEs and small enterprises, and to take them on board with these concepts, they think that it's an issue of cost, but I think in long run it will help. And I think advocacy and working with regulators to make them aware to adopt the new innovative technologies is extremely important.